Good morning, Brew Daily show. I'm Neal Freyman.
And I'm Toby Howell.
Today, we're partnering with Hoka to do a special episode about marathons.
But mostly, it's just an excuse for me to talk about running the New York City Marathon so you all can come cheer for me. It's Saturday, November 2nd. Let's run. So like I said, this is all one big cover for me to talk about running the marathon this Sunday. But first, a quick shout out to Hoka, our partner for this episode. They are hosting activations in run clubs all around the city this weekend to help people get ready for the biggest race in the world. But Neal, we got to talk about some of their shoes too.
Their new Mach X2 is built on the same fast and smooth ride from the original Mach X, but they made it even faster. Increased stack height, extra bouncy PIBA foam, and an upgraded wing plate design. It's light and it's fast.
And then the other shoe we want to highlight is the Cielo X1. Just such a fun shoe. I'm actually wearing it right now. The early stage meta rocker propels you forward with each stride, and its upgraded carbon fiber plate is more efficient at faster speeds, comfortable, resilient, and fast.
Whether you are running the marathon or not, visit Hoka.com to learn more. Well, they say pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the United States, but breathing down its neck, charging fast has to be running. Long distance running, and marathons in particular, are experiencing an unprecedented boom. Running has been on the rise for decades, but interest spiked during the pandemic as an outdoor, socially distant activity, and the momentum has carried into the post-COVID years. Don't believe me? The exercise app Strava reported a 20% increase in marathon runners in 2023 over the previous year. The London Marathon had more than 840,000 people apply for the lottery to run the race this year, a 48% jump in UK applicants, and a 43% jump in international applicants. Organizers expect next year's race to break the world record for the most marathon finishers ever. Meanwhile, informal run clubs have popped up in cities all over the world as a way for aspiring runners to get introduced to the sport and develop community. Toby, what's your read on why marathons have become the it event of the moment?
I really just think that there's been a big shift in more people identifying as runners these days. And part of that is that you go and sign up for a marathon. I mean, think about your relationship with running, or most people's relationship with running. It is punishment for a lot of other sports, but that has been shifting recently. More people are feeling more comfortable identifying as runners, which makes you sign up for races like marathon. Another big thing too is that running culture has escaped into mainstream culture. It's not just a couple of guys running around in 4-inch inseam shorts and all neon. Running culture has blended into many other parts of culture as well, heading out to drinks post-run, or the hundreds of influencers you see these days posting about their miles on Instagram, on TikTok, etc. So I do think that there's been a big seismic shift in the way people relate to running, which is why we're seeing this marathon boom.
Here's an interesting stat about marathons that I think is very illustrative of what's going on. So the average finishing times in marathons are getting longer. Like, they're higher now than they were in the 90s and in the decades before. The average finishing time in Boston Marathon in 1924 was just under 3 hours. And then last year, the average was nearly 4 hours. And what that means is not people are getting slower. It's just that more of the average person is competing in these marathons. So they're bringing the average up, but it just means that more regular people, not elite competitive runners, are joining in the craze.
And so let's talk about why that is. Part of the running boom comes down to how much of a social activity that running has become thanks to run clubs. Run clubs are everywhere these days. There are over 100 established running clubs in New York City alone. I'm sure you've seen the viral singles run club too, where if you show up wearing black, that means you are looking for love. But outside of being the new dating apps, people have been flocking to run clubs because running together is just way more fun, and they make you run more. According to Strava data, runners in grouped activities logged 78% more active time than those who ran solo last year, while 84% of Strava users say that their primary reason for exercising is social connection. So Neal, part of the run boom is doing it with your friends and making new ones. And the primary place to do that right now is run clubs.
It is kind of odd, right? Because running is a solitary activity. I personally don't love talking to people when I'm running because I'm huffing and puffing, but maybe that's what people love about it. It brings out your vulnerability. And when you see somebody sweat and pant and, you get all sweaty afterwards, it just feels like you have a bond with them that you don't get doing another activity that's a little more sedentary.
And I mean, we as Morning Brew actually launched a run club, not just
I knew we were going to throw that in there.
I knew it. Yeah, this is just a big ploy to get you all to come to our run club. But part of the reason why we did that is we just wanted to connect with listeners on a deeper level. It is just the de facto medium of doing that right now. And actually, nobody knows this better than Hoka, our partner in this episode. What they are doing in lead up to the New York City Marathon this year is just hosting run clubs all across the city. Again, another plug. We are hosting one. Actually, by the time that this episode is out, we will be hosting it on Saturday. So I do think that this is just where you go to hang out. It's like the cafe these days. You go to a run club, you meet people, you make new friends, and you get a little sweat in while you're doing it.
If you run with me, I will be the best listener you've ever heard because I'm not going to talk. So you can just talk at me.
I have run with you.
And I'm just going to listen to whatever you have to say. And it's not because I'm ignoring you. I just can't talk because I'm huffing and puffing. And you know what? Hoka also plays a pivotal role in the running boom as well. We got to talk about some sneakers here. Right around 2009 and 2010, minimalist running was the rage, as you know, Toby. A book called Born to Run was released about the Tarahumara tribe in Mexico. They were these elite ultra distance runners, but they shunned any form of modern footwear. The idea was that letting your body's natural biomechanics take over was the secret to minimizing injury. And around that same time, Hoka was founded. They took a completely different approach. They went maximalist, adding a huge slab of foam underfoot to protect your legs as you put in the miles. Ironically, the approach started to win over runners in the ultra community and informed a lot of the design of modern running shoes. If you are lining up at the New York City Marathon this weekend alongside Toby, or you've ever run a marathon, look around at the shoes you see. Tons of foam, lots of padding, and huge stack heights everywhere you look.
And part of the reason why these midsoles are allowed to be so bulky these days is that foam has gotten incredibly lightweight and incredibly responsive. PIBA foam, which we mentioned at the top of the show, it's short for polyether block amide. I won't get into the actual science behind it, but basically what it is so lightweight, so resilient, and also just so responsive. So that's why you can put so much foam underfoot and get that great energy return. But like my mom always used to say, it's also what's on the inside that counts. And in between these layers of this new lightweight foam is a lot of these carbon fiber plates that, again, we spoke about, sandwiched between them. The idea behind that is they literally act as an energy return to propel you forward. The two shoes we mentioned at the beginning of the show, Cielo X1, that one does have a carbon fiber plate in it, great for racing. But also sometimes carbon fiber plates are a little aggressive. So other shoes like the Mach X2 put a plastic midsole plate in there. Little less intense, but still you get that same rocker motion. So it is just, I'm a little bit of a running shoe nerd.
Toby's going to do some fittings an hour before the marathon. So definitely show up at the Verrazano Bridge before time because Toby will take a look and tell you which shoe you need.
I do just think running shoe technology is remarkable these days. You mentioned that finishing times are getting longer, but at the elite level, they are
getting faster,
a lot faster. And a lot of that has to do with this new shoe technology.
Speaking of the elite level, let's talk about these ultra marathon majors, which are the 6 majors in the marathon calendar where people compete really hard to win and set world records.
Not ultra marathons, just normal marathons. But yeah, you are right. A big reason for the increase in running marathons is just an increase in running the most popular marathons, which are the World Marathon Majors. These are 6 races that are some of the largest, most renowned in the world. Completing all 6 actually gives you the coveted 6-star medal, which is something that you can definitely go and show off on Instagram. I have checked off 0 of 6, but it's soon to be 1 of 6. It is definitely like a life goal for a lot of people. And we're just going to run through them all because they all have their each individual character and they each have something unique about them. Up first on the calendar is the Tokyo Marathon. It is the youngest of the world majors, established in 2007, but Tokyo shows out for this. Running is huge in Japan. You can just tell by the amount of support that the runners get while they're running the Tokyo Marathon.
Yeah, it started in 2007, so it's the youngest major, but it didn't become one until 2012. Just the sights that you see as you go through Tokyo, which honestly is probably on my number 1 bucket list of cities. So that'd probably be my first major to run if I were to ever run a marathon, and we'll see about that. But you go by the Imperial Palace, some really cool things, see Tokyo along the way. So that one would be cool.
Any excuse to go to Japan. Next up on the calendar is the granddaddy of them all, Boston. It is the oldest annual marathon, established all the way back in 1897. First 10 miles are pretty net downhill, but then after that, rolling hills makes this one tough. Not the fastest race, Neal, but definitely the most iconic.
The most iconic and extremely difficult to get into. There are certain qualifying times that you have to reach that, Toby, you know all too well. So there's a recent rule change for the 2026 Boston Marathon. Men ages 18 to 34. To get in the qualification window, you have to run a marathon previously of less than 2 hours and 55 minutes or faster, which is equivalent to a 640 mile. That's 5 minutes off the previous qualification limit. So it is grueling to get in. You can get in by doing some charity things, but even that's tough to do. So if you get into the Boston Marathon, that is just an exceptional achievement.
That is a sore spot for me because I did get below the standard. I did break 3, but since there's so much demand, they end up kicking the standard down even further. So that's definitely a goal. Then let's head across the pond to the London Marathon. This one is a fast course. 7 world records have been set here, including Paula Radcliffe, who ran 2 hours and 15 minutes. That was a women's world record that stood for 16 years. Another iconic race.
My fun fact about this one was in the first London Marathon, there was actually a tie in the men's race. The US's Dick Beardsley and Norway's Inge Simonsen passed the finish line together simultaneously at 2 hours, 11 minutes and 48 seconds.
I did not actually know that. I do know Dick Beardsley. He is an iconic runner. But if you thought London was fast, Berlin is even faster. A total of 12 world records have been set on this course, more than any other marathon in history.
And what I want to talk about Berlin is not the day of the marathon, but the day before the marathon, which is the inline skating marathon, which started in 1997. It's the most famous inline skating race in the world. So get out your rollerblades. If you don't want to run and you just want to skate, do that the day before. It's a lot easier to get in than the Berlin Marathon.
And people take it seriously, though. Yeah. They go in the full speed suits. But yeah, if you don't want to run a marathon, but you want to roll one, go do the inline marathon. All right, don't hate me, but if you thought London was fast, if you thought Berlin was fast, Chicago might be even faster because both men's and women's world records were set at Chicago in the past 2 years. First was Kelvin Kiptum's insane 2 hours, 35 second effort, a record made all the more special given his tragic death soon after. Then this year, Ruth Chepngetich became the first woman to ever break 2 hours and 10 minutes in the marathon, setting a world record in the process. Both of those times are just unfathomably fast.
And what I learned about Chicago Marathon this year was that it weaves through all of these very tall buildings in downtown Chicago. So if you are wearing a GPS watch, don't, because it's basically just not going to work because those buildings are going to block the satellite signals that power your GPS watch. So I know a lot of runners get a little frustrated, at least in those early stages where you're going through downtown Chicago. Beautiful architecture, obviously, but also conversely, it blocks you from knowing how far you're going.
It is definitely a headache for runners because you'll finish a marathon and your watch will say like 26.8 miles or sometimes even like 27 miles. And you go, wait a second.
That would make you feel great.
No, it doesn't make you feel great. If you miss like the Boston Standard by a couple seconds, you're like, did I run further or is my watch off? So that just happened to my brother, actually. He ran 26.8 miles and he missed it by 30 seconds. So that headache is definitely real.
Is Chicago considered the windiest marathon too?
It depends. Obviously, it's a very fast one, but you do obviously get winds off the lake. So it was actually windy the day that Ruth Chepngetich sent that. So that is why the 2:09 is just even more impressive because it was not perfect conditions. And then finally, New York City, the biggest marathon in the world. But it is not fast. You run through all 5 boroughs, which also means you run over 5 bridges in the process. You don't really think of New York as hilly, but it is. And yes, this is me just soft launching the possibility of me running a very slow time.
New York City is always a fun marathon, especially since I've lived here. It's such a party, especially where I am in Williamsburg. I mean, the route is so tight there and people are just bearing down. There's music blasting. There's people just, it's a party day. It's so fun. And it is a big impact on the city as well. So the MTA reported that last year's marathon, that Sunday, had the most subway rides of any Sunday in 4 years. You know what it was broken by just a few weeks later? SantaCon. Yeah, so SantaCon has a bigger economic impact allegedly than the New York City Marathon, but that's not to say the New York City Marathon isn't a huge event, because it is.
We gotta combine the two. Let's do a SantaCon marathon.
I'm sure it is somewhere around the world.
Absolutely. There definitely is.
And speaking of that, there are some, we talked about the marathon majors, which are for most people, competitive athletes, people who want to break world records and run their fastest time. But there are some weird marathons around the world as well. Here are a few I want to highlight. There's one called the Great Wall Marathon, which is kind of exactly what it says on the title. It started in 1999, and you run on the Great Wall of China. And if you think that's a lot of uphill, it is. You have to walk up or run up 5,100 steps.
And then you have to keep the Huns out as well. So they're getting arrows fired at you along the way. It's real intense.
Okay, this next one I think is my kind of marathon. It's in French wine country. You run 26.2 miles, but here's the catch. Instead of water stations and hydration stations, you have 23 wine tasting stations along the way.
That sounds like a physical feat. I did show you an Instagram video before this of a guy who ran the London Marathon who had a glass of wine at every single mile, and he identified each one. So there's something between the sommelier and running community that there is some overlap there.
And then when you're done the French wine tasting marathon, head over to Spain, where in Granada, they're holding what is considered the world's fastest marathon, and that's because it is 6,000 feet of elevation change downhill.
I know that it will be fast, but I'm also thinking about how mad my quads would be after the micro tears in those muscles from all the pounding downhill. I don't know if it's worth it for the fast time. And that is all the marathon and the shoe info that we have for you guys today. Another thank you to Hoka for partnering with us on this show. Check out some of their activations this weekend. We will be hosting a shakeout run. Check out the Cielo X1 and the Mach X2. Awesome shoes. Again, I have them. I have the Cielo X1 on my feet right now, and just good luck on the marathon if you're running this weekend.
Let's roll the credits. Emily Milline is our executive producer. Raymond Liu is our producer. Olivia Graham is our associate producer. Sean O'Connor is on video. And Catherine Burgess designed this awesome set at Hoka's flagship store in New York City. Jacob Schmidt is on audio. Hair and makeup is going to the shakeout run with us. Devin Emery is our chief content officer, and our show is a production of Morning Brew.
Great show today, Neal. Let's run it back on Monday.